1 Samuel chapter 17. The Philistine rallied their troops for war, assembling at Sokoh in Yehudah and setting up camp between Sokoh and Azekah in Ephes Damim. Shaul and the men of Israel assembled, set up camp in the Elah valley, and drew up their battle line opposite the Philistine. The Philistine occupied a position on one hill, and Israel a position on another hill, with a valley between them. There came out a champion from the camp of the Philistine named Goliath from Gath, who was 9 feet 9 inches tall. He had a bronze helmet on his head, and he wore a bronze armor plate weighing 120 pounds. He had bronze armor protecting his legs, and a bronze javelin between his shoulders. The shaft of his spear was as big as a weaver's beam, and the iron spearhead weighed 15 pounds. His shield-bearer went ahead of him. He stood and yelled at the armies of Israel, "Why come out and draw up a battle line? I'm a Philistine, and you are servants of Shaul. So choose a man for yourselves, and let him come down to me. If he can fight me and kill me, we'll be your slaves. But if I beat him and kill him, you will become slaves and serve us." The Philistine added, "I challenge Israel's armies today. Give me a man, and we'll fight it out." When Shaul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistine, they were shaken and terrified. Now David was the son of that Ephrathi from Beth-lehem in Yehudah named Yishai. He had 8 sons, and in the time of Shaul he was old. The years had taken their toll. Yishai's 3 oldest sons had followed Shaul to battle. The names of his 3 sons who went to battle were Eliav, the firstborn, next to him Avinadav, and the third Shammah. David was the youngest. The 3 oldest followed Shaul. David went back and forth from Shaul to pasture his father's sheep at Beth-lehem. Meanwhile, the Philistine approached with his challenge every morning and evening for 40 days. Yishai said to David, his son, "Please take your brothers 5 bushels of this roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread. Hurry and carry them to your brothers at the camp. Also, bring these 10 cheeses to their field officer. Find out if your brothers are well and bring back some token from them. Shaul and your brothers, with all the army of Israel, are in the Elah valley fighting the Philistine." David got up early in the morning, left the sheep with a helper, took his load and set out, as Yishai had ordered him. He arrived at the barricade of the camp, just as the troops were going out to their battle stations and shouting the war cry. Israel and the Philistine had set up their battle lines facing each other. David left his equipment in charge of the equipment guard, ran to the troops, went to his brothers and asked if they were well. As he was talking with them, there came the champion, the Philistine from Gath named Goliath, from the ranks of the Philistine, saying the same words as before, and David heard them. When the soldiers from Israel saw the man, they all ran away from him, terrified. The soldiers from Israel said to each other, "You saw that man who just came up? He has come to challenge Israel. To whoever kills him, the king will give a rich reward. He'll also give him his daughter and exempt his father's family from all service and taxes in Israel." David said to the man standing with him, "What reward will be given to the man who kills this Philistine, and removes this disgrace from Israel? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine anyway, that he challenges the armies of the living God?" The people answered with what they had been saying, adding, "That's what will be done for the man who kills him." Eliav, his oldest brother, heard when David spoke to the men, and it made Eliav angry at him. He asked, "Why did you come down here? With whom did you leave those few sheep in the desert? I know how conceited you are and how wicked your heart is. You just came down to watch the fighting." David said, "What have I done now? I only asked a question." He turned away from him to someone else and asked the same question, and the people gave him the same answer. David's words were overheard and told to Shaul, who summoned him. David said to Shaul, "No one should lose heart because of him. Your servant will go and fight this Philistine." Shaul said to David, "You can't go to fight this Philistine. You're just a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." David answered Shaul, "Your servant used to guard his father's sheep. When a lion or a bear would come and grab a lamb from the flock, I would go after it, hit it, and snatch the lamb from its mouth, and if it turned on me, I would catch it by the jaw, smack it, and kill it. Your servant has defeated both lions and bears, and this uncircumcised Philistine will be like one of them, because he has challenged the armies of the living God." Then David said, Adonai, who rescued me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear, will rescue me from the paw of this Philistine." Shaul said to David, "Go, may Adonai be with you." Shaul dressed David in his own armor. He put a bronze helmet on his head and gave him armor plate to wear. David buckled his sword on his armor and tried to walk, but he wasn't used to such equipment. David said to Shaul, "I can't move wearing these things because I'm not used to them." So David took them off. Then he took his stick in his hand and picked 5 smooth stones from the riverbed, putting them in his shepherd's bag in his pouch. Then, with his sling in his hand, he approached the Philistine. The Philistine, with his shield-bearer ahead of him, came nearer and nearer to David. The Philistine looked David up and down and had nothing but scorn for what he saw, a boy with ruddy cheeks, red hair, and good looks. The Philistine said to David, "Am I a dog? Is that why you're coming at me with sticks?" And the Philistine cursed David by his God. Then the Philistine said to David, "Come here to me, so I can give your flesh to the birds in the air and the wild animals." David answered the Philistine, "You're coming at me with a sword, a spear, and a javelin, but I'm coming at you in the name of Adonai Sevaot, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have challenged. Today Adonai will hand you over to me. I will attack you, lop your head off, and give the carcasses of the army of the Philistine to the birds in the air and the animals in the land. Then all the land will know that there is a God in Israel, and everyone assembled here will know that Adonai does not save by sword or spear. For this is Adonai's battle, and he will hand you over to us." When the Philistine got up, approached, and came close to David, David hurried and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine. David put his hand in his bag, took out a stone, and hurled it with his sling. It struck the Philistine in his forehead, and buried itself in his forehead, so that he fell down on the ground, face down on the ground. Thus David defeated the Philistine with a sling and a stone, striking the Philistine and killing him. But David had no sword in his hand. Then David ran and stood over the Philistine, took his sword, drew it out of its sheath, and finished killing him, cutting off his head with it. When the Philistines saw that their hero was dead, they fled. The men of Israel and Yehudah got up, shouting, and pursued the Philistine all the way to Gat and the gates of Ekron. The wounded Philistine fell down all along the road from Sha'arayim to Gat and Ekron. After chasing the Philistine, the army of Israel returned and plundered their camp. David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put the armor of the Philistine in his tent. When Shaul saw David go out to fight the Philistine, he said to Avner, the army's commander, "Avner, whose son is this boy?" "By your life, O king," Avner replied, "I don't know." The king said, "Find out whose son this boy is." As David returned from killing the Philistine, Avner took him and brought him to Shaul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. Shaul asked him, "Young man, whose son are you?" David answered, "I am the son of your servant Yishai the Beet Lachmi." End of 1 Samuel, Shemuel Alef, chapter 17.